Wow. William Saliba is better than Ruben Diaz.
Yo. In fact, tear that paper. Just tear it. Just tear it, please. There's come on, man. Nah. That is false with a capital F, man.
I'll say true.
That's
I'll say true. The first time, or is it?
I'm not sure. Title challenger. Yeah, officially title challenger.
Yeah. 13-time league champions.
13-time, eh? 5 out of the last 6 league titles. Treble winner.
Invincibles.
Yeah. Was Kenya a multi-party state at that time? I don't know. I'm not quite sure. As you know, you are our customers. You've been our customers for the longest time. It's a marriage. You guys are our midwives. But, given City's current form, lost our last 2 games, I have a feeling this marriage will end.
So
title challenger, start.
Anyway. Martinelli is better than Jack Grealish.
Ooh. False.
I'd also say
false.
No. I'd say true.
Why true?
He's actually a better player than Jack Grealish. The reason as to why I'll say that is because since Grealish has come to Manchester City, yes, I know at Aston Villa he, people built him up to be like the new Nedved. At the Euros he was like the messiah of English football because they thought, the Euros will come home for the first time ever. But it's a situation where since he's come to Man City, I know he had a difficult first season. The second season he was better, and that's because as someone who creates, he can complement Haaland, who plays on the shoulder and doesn't really bring others to the game. But I look at it from an effective point of view. Someone like Martinelli came from the Brazilian 4th division, Ituano. He basically never went through like the academy refinement that someone like Grealish went through. And yet, in his first full season as a regular starter last season, he managed to score 15 goals. I think his expected assist record was similar to, the guy, Saka, the guy people considered to be the best right winger in the world. And he's younger. He's actually 5 years younger than Grealish. So I look at it from a ceiling point of view. I think that Martinelli has the potential and capability to possibly even become maybe a top 5 player in world football at some point. Grealish is a good player, don't get me wrong, but Grealish is more at City, considering he's the type of guy who basically you need to give the ball to him to create, but your system is more of like, everything is about putting the team first. And I think he struggles in those kind of situations. So I'd argue that Martinelli is in a system that gets the best out of him and makes him more effective in terms of goal contribution, possibly even assist contribution than Grealish.
Grealish, people like to, measure him with the goals and assists. And there are some players in football that it's an unfair thing to do that. And in this case, it's Grealish. The reason I say he's better than Martinelli is because what he brings to City is that he brings that composure. He slows the game down. He's a ball carrier. He provides... The effectiveness he gives to the team is not your regular winger that, the Salahs and Martinellis, where I don't expect 15 goals from Jack Grealish. But what I expect from him is to slow the game down, carry the ball, and so that other people can get into position. Yes, he may get a few assists here and there, maybe a few goals here and there, but the reason I say he's better than him, first of all, being younger doesn't mean that you're better. And then he's also under a better manager, in my opinion. He's in a better team that... his development will be faster than Martinelli's. And that's why I feel that Grealish is better. And Grealish, before, in his first season, he was benched by Foden, Bernardo. The next season, table stand, and now he's the one benching Foden. So, he's the one who started the Champions League final, started the FA Cup final. So you can see that's why Pep trusts him. So that's why I say he's better. City's treble winners are a better team than Arsenal's Invincibles. I say true.
I say false.
I say true. You know why?
I'll say false.
I say true because, you see, the thing is, when Arsenal were Invincibles, that was the only trophy you got that season, right? Was it a double, or was it just the Premier League? Yeah?
No, just the Premier League.
Just the Premier League. You guys drew a bunch of games. You finished with 79 points.
90 points. 90 points.
Was it 90 points?
26 matches.
You guys didn't
12
clock 90
draws,
points.
no
You
defeat.
didn't clock
26
90
times 3 plus 12. Make that math yourself.
Okay.
That's 90.
Fine. The reason I say treble winners are better than the Invincibles because to win 3 trophies, you have to find a balance in all those 3 competitions. Now, mind you, if you're starting with the Premier League, that's 38 games, right? We all know how the schedule is in December. A game almost every 2.5 days. And then the manner in which City won, we chased down Arsenal. In fact, we were the only ones who chased you guys down. Every other team had given up. Even when you guys were 8 points clear with 9 games to go, guys were like, every pundit was like, you guys have it. But City had this never say die attitude, and we just had to pull through. Looking at the FA Cup, it's a knockout competition from start to finish. The teams we beat in the running, we beat Chelsea, we beat you guys, and we beat United in the final. Gundogan scored the fastest goal in FA Cup final history, right? Towards winning the treble. In the Champions League, in the knockout stages, we beat Bayern Munich, we beat Real Madrid, and we faced an Inter side in the final. Clean sheet. So the reason I say the treble is better is because over the span of the whole season, there's a level of fitness, a level of mental ability, level of quality that you need in your squad, also from your manager, because you're facing different teams. It's harder than just finishing unbeaten in just the league, for me.
And I get your points, and there's no doubt that last season's treble winning side is one of the greatest teams in history. But the reason as to why I'm going to say the Invincibles were a much better side than your treble winning side is because, for start, there is this narrative and notion that we put our eggs only into the Premier League basket. That is the biggest lie ever. Producer maybe can fact check, but we got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League where we lost by a solitary goal to a Bridge goal at Stamford Bridge. We lost the FA Cup semi-final to Manchester United that season. In the Carabao Cup, Arsene Wenger threw the kids into the game, but you guys also didn't win the Carabao Cup, so that doesn't count. And then we won a league title, having played 26 games, won 26 games, drawn 12 times, and lost not even a single game. And I remember even when Arsene Wenger gave out a challenge in the season before, in the pre-season leading up to that season, the press conference, every journalist in that press conference burst out laughing, saying that, what are you saying, it's ridiculous. But it did happen. And there is a reason, despite the fact that Manchester City have spent billions of pounds on like the creme de la creme of football in the world, can't be compared to the success that Arsene Wenger achieved, having signed players from basically unknown areas. He brought in players like Thierry Henry, who, yes, was already a World Cup winner. He brought in players like Thierry Henry, who was a Juventus reject. I don't remember the last time you guys signed someone who was a Juventus reject. He signed players like Patrick Vieira, who basically was virtually brought out of the streets. And, you know, he kept players like Kolo Touré, signing him as a trialist. Remember, having failed trials left, right, and center, having come from Ivory Coast. And yet, the spine of that team was strong enough, surrounded by a framework of some decent players like Freddie Ljungberg, some decent players like Ashley Cole, who many consider to be the greatest left back of all time, straight from the academy. He brought in players like Jens Lehmann from Dortmund, an experienced international with Germany, and then brought that team and made them a cohesive unit that had played for 2 or 3 seasons, I remember, together to win that title. And beforehand, they'd actually won the 2002 double and had won the FA Cup in 2003 as a unit. So if you look at it from that point of view, because even your treble winning side was a unit, except the fact that you added someone like Haaland, but the rest of the team was basically had been playing together for 2 or 3 years, I'd argue that that team also achieved success. Yes, you might say they never won a Champions League, but in knockout football at the end of the day, you don't have to be the best player the best team to win. We saw teams like Liverpool and Chelsea won the Champions League when they weren't even the best team, respective teams in their divisions in those respective seasons, 2005 and 2012 and even 2021. And they beat you guys despite the fact that you guys were much stronger and beat them to the league by over 20 points. You get what I'm saying? So I'd argue that that team, having been made up of players that were shrewd deals, some players from the academy, some players who were trialists and had no hope. And he managed to get that team to become a winning team that went a whole season, the Premier League, unbeaten, the most competitive team in the league in the world. I'd say that's a better success than Man City with all your billions.
No, but you see, the thing is, if you're talking from a coaching point of view, what many people tend to forget about last season is that in January, we got rid of arguably who was the best right back in the world, Joao Cancelo. Juu alikuwa kichwa ngumu. And because he was being benched by an 18-year-old Rico Lewis. So any other manager would have tried to keep Cancelo's like, hey, Maze, you're really good, man. So just fall in line. Pep is like, wait, bounce. And we gave him to Bayern Munich, not at Leeds United. Came to Bayern Munich, one of our biggest competitors. Alafu replaced him with an 18-year-old Rico Lewis. That's number one. Number two, if we're talking about a coaching, you're talking about the team, right? Our back four, he benched Kyle Walker. He was playing Akanji, who we got in January. He's playing Akanji. I said, fine. He played on the right wing. This is a centre back. We beat Bayern Munich with 4 centre backs. Nathan Ake on the left hand side, who's also a centre back. Fine, he could have put Sergio Gomez, but he put Nathan Ake there. Towards the end of the season, he took John Stones, who's a centre back, to play alongside Rodri. Guys were like, are you mad? Why are you putting a centre back in central midfield? And we all saw how lovely that turned out. So if you're talking about a coaching point of view, it's not like once we lost Cancelo, Pep just said that, hey, wait, give me another 60 million, I want a right back. He's like, hey, cool, bounce. I'll get my 18-year-old, put him there. My left back, left back. If Pep was really a guy for checkbook, he'd have said, I want another left back, so that now we can put Nathan Ake as part of our reserves in terms of centre back. But that's what he did. We played with 4 centre backs. Played with John Stones, central midfield, and now going forward is when now he would switch, whether it's KDB playing behind Haaland or Alvarez, that kind of stuff. And then also now the improvement of Grealish. So, I get your argument in terms of the team, but I can also make an argument in terms of my team and say, that it wasn't all plain sailing. And it's not like we just mwagad money in the market just to replace guys because they've gone.
There's a tough one. Kevin De Bruyne is better than Mesut Ozil.
There's no debate there, obviously. It's true. There's no debate there.
I'll also say true. What I'll say is Mesut Ozil is arguably the greatest player we've ever seen in terms of vision and execution of his passing. But Mesut Ozil wasn't effective enough and wasn't consistent enough on a regular basis the way someone like Kevin De Bruyne has. Yeah. And it speaks volumes that after he signed his new contract at the club, within a year they were deeming him not cost effective and they were looking for ways to, get him off the wage bill, and the fact that maybe there were other political issues that I don't want to delve too much into. But I'll say that Mesut Ozil, man for man, was possibly a better player in terms of natural talent than KDB. But all round, I'll say that the things that KDB has done, not just for Man City, but for Premier League football in general, you can't argue against it. So I'll say all round, KDB is a better player than Ozil. I'll take the loss
definitely.
on that.
There's no
Take
debate.
the loss on that.
There's no debate. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne, like I was telling you guys off air, he equaled Thierry Henry's record for the most assists in within a Premier League season, last 20. Kevin De Bruyne is more of a big game player than Mesut Ozil. And I can even just use last season as an example. His goal to equalize against Real Madrid, his assist for Haaland to score against Bayern, his goal against Arsenal, his assist to Haaland in the 6-3 against Manchester United. So he's a big game player. His assists are out of this world. He can score goals, and he can also dribble you if you're not careful. And it's just unfortunately that he's injured right now. But for the most part of his career, he's been there. He's been there. You know, Mesut Ozil has always had this cloud over his head that he is not. His industry on the pitch he's not there. He doesn't run. Sometimes he looks lazy. So, you know, that has never been the case with Kevin De Bruyne. So yeah, man, for me it's just not a debate. Pep Guardiola has a bigger Premier League legacy than Arsene Wenger. That is very true. That is very true. Should I read it again? Let me just read it again for the guys in the back. Pep Guardiola has a bigger Premier League legacy than Arsene Wenger. That is very true.
As much as it pains me to say it, I'll say true, and that's because Arsene Wenger, I understand that his first 10 years were fantastic, but the last 10 years, and in particular the last 5 years on his of his reign at the club, you know, were forgettable at best. Let me put it that way. Let it end that way, because we all know what happened.
You don't want to get flashbacks.
But Pep Guardiola is considered the second best manager of all time after Sir Alex Ferguson. And his career is far from over. I think he's only 52, 53, I think. And for someone like that to come to the Premier League, where the league was super competitive, I think before he came back, I think 5 teams had won the Premier League title, and he's virtually made the Premier League title. He's actually made like the Premier League kind of like quote unquote a farmers league, because winning 5 out of 7 league titles, come on, that is dominance.
6, actually,
and it's very hard to argue against that. In fact, even his football, everyone wants to copy his style of football because it's attractive. You know, there is an insistence to be resilient on the ball as well as off the ball as well, and everyone is copying it. So his influence at the end of the day is second to none. I know Arsene Wenger had a good influence to the Premier League football. He's basically the one who introduced sports science. He's the one who brought the foreign policy of bringing you know, foreign players into the Premier League. He's the one who ended the drinking culture among English clubs. But it's very hard to argue against what Pep Guardiola has achieved at Manchester City. So I'll take the loss on that one.
I say it's very true, because as much as I respect Arsene Wenger, he failed to adapt his game, you know, as the years progressed, and that's what you know, that's the difference between him and people like now Sir Alex. Sir Alex was able to adapt and get the best out of what he got at the time. Yes, I agree. Arsene Wenger revolutionized the Premier League football in the early 90s, late 90s, and. But if you compare to Guardiola, yes, people are always going to point to the money, and yes, it does influence. It does have an effect on the success that he has had. But then again, you know, you have to consider that Pep's era in the Premier League, by that time the transfer market was already crazy. By that time, PSG had already bought Neymar for well over 200 million. Barcelona was spending well over 100 million on 3 different forwards. Real Madrid had bought the most expensive player in the world like 2-3 times already, Ronaldo, then Gareth Bale. United had bought the most expensive player in between that time, Paul Pogba for 89. Yeah. People were spending. So the transfer market was it had inflated by that point. So, yeah, people will point to the money, but the way Pep has had the Premier League in a chokehold.
Exactly.
He has just dominated it, and no one has been able to, other than Jurgen Klopp, no one has been able to just knock him off his throne.
Exactly.
And also just, with the revolutionary tactics, you see more teams trying to play out from the back.
Exactly.
That's, came from Pep and how City play, and just the quality of football that City have been playing in the Premier League, and the what do you call this, the never say die attitude, to go neck and neck with Liverpool until the last game of the season.
Exactly.
The manner in which we've won the league previously, the Aston Villa where we came back 3-2, Brighton where we came back and we won 4-1. It's crazy. I feel like when Guardiola does leave, everybody is just going to be like, oh, exactly. Finally.
Yeah.
Now someone else can win this. My God, hey, we've been waiting. But as long as he's still here, City are always going to be favorites. I don't think that was always the case with Arsene Wenger.
Wow. William Saliba is better than Ruben Diaz.
In fact, tear that paper. Just tear it. Just tear it, please. Come on, man. Nah. That is false with a capital F, man.
I'll say true.
I'll
say true.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is why we say Arsenal fans are the most deluded.
I'll say true.
The reason why
hear me out. The reason as to I'll say true is because, one, for start, I am aware, I'm one of Ruben Diaz's biggest fans. He basically elevated your team when they were trying to rebuild after, Klopp had, knocked you off your perch momentarily. The influence he's had on the team in terms of, like, his leadership qualities, in terms of, like, the way he is as a character, as a presence, has elevated you guys as well. But William Saliba, I'd argue, man for man, in terms of quality, in terms of all-round, in terms of all-roundedness in general, is better than Ruben Diaz. And the reason why I'll tell you that is this. One, I'd say William Saliba is a better ball-playing defender than Ruben Diaz. Ruben Diaz is arguably, of all your brilliant players, he's the most limited player on the ball. That means the way you guys set up your team, it has to be Vardiol and maybe Ake and maybe John Stones are the ones who are tasked to be the players that help you build out from the back. Ruben Diaz can do that, but not at an effective level as the three. I know he's a brilliant ball player, but not as good as those three I mentioned. And I'd say William Saliba is better from that point of view. Something else I'll say he's better at. He's stronger, he's faster, and basically he's more of an aerial threat than Ruben Diaz. I'd argue maybe the only thing that he's better than Ruben Diaz is that leadership and quality. I understand that he's a naturally born leader, but William Saliba has also proven to be a key figure in our setup. Look, I'd argue we lost the Premier League title last season because of William Saliba's injury. Maybe we didn't have adequate depth to, come in for him and, step up for him when he was upset. But the fact that it had to take for a player like that, a young player for that matter who's only 21, to get injured, for everything to go haywire, speaks volumes about how important he was to our team. And remember, he's young. He's only getting better. I look at it from a potential ability point of view. I'd argue that William Saliba has the potential to become a Real Madrid player one day. I know that the Premier League has changed. I know that the Premier League has changed, and I know that everyone wants to come to the Premier League because of the money. But if you compare man for man between Ruben Diaz and William Saliba, who is more likely to be considered a quote-unquote Galactico in the way that we saw someone like Rafael Varane at Madrid before going to Man United? Answer me that.
Oh, my goodness. So, let's just start here. William Saliba, compared to Ruben Diaz, has not run the miles. When I say run the miles, there's a certain what do you call this, level of experience that is required before you now start comparing one player to the other. Now, Ruben Diaz, before he joined Man City, had already come from winning a league title at Benfica. Okay, so he already has that winning mentality. He knows what it takes to win a league title. When he joined City, straight away, boom, he just hit the ground running, and that's when we went on to win the league. So you talk about ball carrying and because Stones and these other guys have to do it. Your first job as a defender is to defend. Ball carrying and progression. That's when you make a cake, yeah, it's the icing around. It's around, yeah, but the main cake is what's inside, nyama, ndani, yeah. Saliba is like a mandazi, but it's hollow inside. Yeah, aina hiyo nini ndani. Yeah, so all I'm saying is that a defender's first job is to defend, okay? And Saliba, for me, has he won anything in his career?
But that's unfair. That's unfair because
how is it
at the
unfair?
end of the day, look at William Saliba's career progression. He came through the ranks at St. Etienne. He was considered the best defender in his position and was considered the Mbappe of centre-backs when he was 16 years old at St. Etienne. Remember, that is a St. Etienne side that had Wesley Fofana. A Fofana who was signed by Chelsea Football Club after a brilliant first season before his injury for Leicester City at Leicester when he got into the PFA Team of the Year in his first season with no pre-season given towards, of course, there were unprecedented circumstances like the COVID season. But the fact that Saliba was considered the better of the two centre-backs speaks volumes about how people viewed him in France. Yes, I know he came to Arsenal, it was a situation where maybe people considered him not ready and whatnot. But then he had to go back on loan to Nice, and then he went on loan to Marseille, who had not played in Europe for years. And he was part of the team that helped Marseille return to the Champions League for the first time in, I think, 4 years. Then came to Arsenal when people were expecting him to be sold because apparently he and Arteta were not seeing eye to eye. But the fact that he came and was part of a team, a new player, quote unquote, having virtually been given his first chance at becoming a senior player at only the age of 20, remember, and elevated us into becoming an unprecedented title challenger last season, speaks volumes about his qualities. Yes, I know we've already spoken about the fact that, he can ball play and whatnot, but Saliba can also defend. This is something you're not getting. He has the pace to recover, and he actually brings composure that players like Shkodran Mustafi and other players never gave us at the time. So
it's funny you say that he joined Arsenal and then he took him out.
But he was young. He was 17.
Yeah.
Okay, he was 17.
You're talking like Diaz is 35.
Even Ruben Diaz. It took 3 seasons for Ruben Diaz to become an established member of the Benfica side before coming to the side. So if you look at it from that point of view, it's hard to argue against the fact that William Saliba is possibly a better man for man.
Benfica is bigger than Marseille. It's bigger than Saint Etienne. Benfica is bigger than all those clubs that Martinelli went on loan. Not Martinelli. That Saliba went on loan to.
But look at the difference between those clubs and then coming to Arsenal, where it's the biggest league that is watched by everyone. And I understand the fact that we had been mediocre for a couple of years, but he made us a title-challenging side for the first time since 2007, 2008.
Look at Diaz, who's replacing Vincent Kompany, arguably one of the best centre-backs that City has ever had in the Mansour era. And that responsibility playing under Pep Guardiola, who is very strenuous, very stringent in his tactics, and the fact that he was just able to seamlessly enter the fray, the system, and just gel and excel.
Look at William Saliba, who came back from loan and then displaced a 50 million centre-back who everyone thought would be the prime centre-back under Mikel Arteta, only for him to be pushed to right-back because of William Saliba. Look at it that way.
It's not an achievement to bench Ben White. Everybody was saying that 50 million was already too much.
Yeah, but he already had a decent first season.
It's not an achievement to bench Ben White. No. Very false. Very false. Right, finally, let's see what these guys are saying. After the Champions League success, Man City is now a bigger club than Arsenal.
False. 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 False.
You guys are cheeky
false.
with this one. You guys are cheeky.
False.
And it's ironic that it's the last one, yeah.
Now. It's ironic it's the last one. Okay, let's get this straight. Let's dot the I's and cross the T. Arsenal is the third biggest club in England, behind maybe Manchester United and Liverpool.
Yeah.
And there is no argument about that.
So look, as far as that statement is concerned, I'll be very honest. It's false. The biggest clubs in England are United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. What do you call this? They have historical advantage. When I say historical advantage, is that these are teams that were successful from early. And what happened during those times is that all those generations from the 70s, 80s, 90s, going into the early 2000s, those generations, they followed each other. And truth be told, in football, or perhaps even just in sport, whichever team is winning the most in that era will gain the most fans that are growing up in that generation.
Exactly.
It's the same way, it's like in NBA, you'll see a lot of people who are now all of a sudden Golden State Warriors fans because of Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So even today's era right now, you have kids now, the 15-year-olds, 12, 14, 15-year-olds, who are rocking City shirts, walking around right now, not just here in Kenya, but around the world, because City is the one that's winning right now. And if City continue winning, then you'll find that 10 years later, the fan base has increased. That's just what happens in football. It's just now with United, Liverpool, and Arsenal, you started winning from early, and you just started that whole generation, your great-grandfather to the grandfather, Yeah. So that's, and then also you guys started winning trophies much earlier. So, it's despite winning a Champions League, I can still banter you for it because I won before you, shameless. But, as far as City being a bigger club than Arsenal, no. That one, I'll have to put my hands up. But we're still a better team than you. And we'll champ you this coming weekend.
I've said
it.
You won't. These guys,
these are customers.
If these guys beat us this weekend and they don't have guys like De Bruyne and don't have guys like Rodri,
no, that one,
we'll never win Manchester City again. And I can hand on heart say, I'll probably dye my hair blue if that happens.
Ashasema.